For many people, Gen X parents seem a little difficult to define. They aren't as strict as older generations, but they're also not as relaxed as some modern parenting trends. In fact, their approach often feels like a balance between independence and emotional support. To understand why, you have to go back to what childhood looked like for Generation X. Many Gen X kids grew up during a time when both parents started working full-time. After school, millions of children simply went home to an empty house. They unlocked the door themselves, made something to eat, and spent the afternoon figuring things out on their own. This experience created what became known as the latch-key kid generation. For those kids, independence wasn't something parents taught intentionally. It was simply a reality of everyday life. If you had a problem with homework, you tried to solve it yourself. If you had a conflict with friends, you worked it out without adults stepping in. At the time, it didn't feel unusual. It was just normal life. But growing up that way had a psychological impact that researchers still talk about today. When children regularly face challenges on their own, they often develop strong independence and resilience. They learn to solve problems quickly and become comfortable making decisions. At the same time, that independence sometimes came with a quieter side effect: emotional self-reliance. Many Gen X adults have spoken about remembering moments when they wished someone had been there to help or simply listen. Those experiences stayed with them long after childhood ended. Now fast forward several decades, the children who grew up in empty houses during the afternoon are now parents themselves. And interestingly, many of them are trying to create a different experience for their own kids. This doesn't mean they want to remove independence entirely. In fact, many Gen X parents still believe learning to handle problems alone is an important life skill. But they also want to add something they sometimes felt was missing when they were young: emotional presence. Psychologists often describe parenting styles using two key ideas. The first is responsiveness, which means how emotionally supportive and present parents are with their children. The second is demandingness, which refers to how much structure, rules, and expectations parents set. When both of these are high, researchers call it authoritative parenting. This style combines clear boundaries with emotional warmth. Studies in developmental psychology have repeatedly shown that children raised in this environment often develop strong confidence, better emotional control, and stronger social skills. Interestingly, the way many Gen X parents describe their approach sounds very similar to this style. They want their children to feel supported, but they also believe kids should learn from mistakes. Instead of controlling every decision, they often allow space for trial and error. This balance may explain why Gen X parenting sometimes appears contradictory from the outside. They might let their child handle everyday problems independently, but when something serious happens, they step in with surprising intensity. Some people even describe this as a stealth support style of parenting. They're not constantly hovering, but when their child truly needs help, they show up immediately. Another reason Gen X parenting looks different is the world they're raising kids in. Generation X is the first group of parents who experienced childhood before the internet but adulthood during the digital age. They remember a time when embarrassing moments didn't live forever online and when boredom often led to creativity. Because of this, many Gen X parents have a complicated relationship with technology. They understand how powerful digital tools can be, but they're also cautious about how much influence those tools should have on everyday life. So when they set limits on screens or social media, it often comes from personal experience rather than fear. There's also another pressure many Gen X parents face today. They're often part of what sociologists call the sandwich generation. This means they're raising children while also supporting aging parents at the same time. Balancing careers, family responsibilities, and financial stress can make parenting feel exhausting. Despite these pressures, many Gen X parents remain focused on one simple goal: preparing their kids for an unpredictable world. They grew up during economic recessions, watched industries change rapidly, and saw how quickly stability can disappear. Because of that, they often emphasize adaptability and resilience. In other words, they want their children to feel both supported and capable. This may be the real legacy of Gen X parenting. It's not about creating a perfect system or following every modern parenting trend. Instead, it's about combining the strengths of independence with the importance of emotional support. For a generation once described as one of the least nurtured in modern history, the fact that many Gen X parents are actively trying to be present for their children represents a powerful shift. They're taking lessons from the past and reshaping them into something new. And while their approach may not always fit neatly into categories, it reflects a deeper idea, learning from experience and using it to build a better future for the next generation.